Yeah, hi. I just wanted to touch on the subject of the balanced wafters that we produce here at Essential Baits, because over the years I think there's a number of people have become a little bit confused on the concept behind their manufacture. And it's quite important, obviously, in terms of rig presentation and effectiveness. Now, one of the most common questions I get over the years is, look, Mike, I've bought a tub of the wafters, but they don't float. Well, the bottom line is they're not supposed to float, they're supposed to sink, which they do, obviously, but they sink at a slower rate, a much slower rate than the free offerings, which I'll get to in a minute. And the reason why they sink at a slower rate is because if you look carefully, you'll see hundreds, if not thousands, of little tiny cork particles that have been carefully blended into each hook bait at the correct ratio. And they're there to simply counteract the weight of that hook. To negate the weight of the hook, so that basically what you're trying to do is trying to make your hook bait behave as close as possible to your free offerings. The problem is I can only assume that what a lot of people think that with wafters is that you add a hook and then they just take them down through the water column like this very, very, very slowly. But that to me is a critically balanced hook bait. And although they have their uses in certain presentations, they're not the best in terms of rig efficiency, because what tends to happen is the fish move into the baited area to feed on your free offerings, and there's usually quite a lot of water movement where the fish are moving around, moving the gills going in and out, that turn in the head, but in particular their pectoral fins just waving backwards and forwards. And what tends to happen with critically balanced baits when that happens is that they quite easily lift off the bottom, just like this, lift up in the air, and they just tend to start going around in circles, because don't forget they're attached to your rig, which is attached to a lead, and they just tend to spin around like this, almost like they're on a tethered leash. And that makes it really easy for the carp to differentiate between your hook bait and your free offerings. And that's why, and I've seen it on numerous occasions, a carp will often come in, clear up all the free offerings, and then it'll do the off. And when all the water calms down, your critically balanced bait will just slowly rest back down on the deck where it was. And as I say, they have their uses, but they can be quite ineffective at times. So all we're trying to do with these is just add a minimum amount of cork to make sure that they negate the weight of the hook, to counteract the weight of the hook, so that when the fish are feeding on your free offerings, obviously you've put in free offerings out because you're using them as a vehicle to attract the carp and to keep them in the area. So you want your hook bait, you want your rig to be behaving exactly the same, because if you do, it's going to massively increase your chances of a pickup. So hopefully that's clear and makes some sense.